Hello YouTube, I'm Tallman Brad and welcome back to the Beginner's Guide for Space Engineers. I'm holding your hand and walking you through the things you will need to know and do early on in the game. Last time we built an extremely basic mining ship to make it quicker and easier to gather ores. This time we're going to upgrade our base with more power, add a faster, more efficient assembler and create some storage space for all of the ores and components that we're going to need to get us on our way to making a better mining ship that will eventually be capable of space flight. Yes, space. But we're not going into space today. First, we're going to upgrade the base. Let's get started. Now, to improve the speed and efficiency of our base, we're going to need a better assembler than this one. So in the G menu, if I go into all blocks and SM, there we see the assembler. There's the basic one. There's the one we want. And it's going to go here. Now I want to join it onto that refinery. So I need to make sure it's the right way around. Boom. It's going there. So now that we have our new assembler, we can get rid of the old basic one. But I want to take out all of the components and the materials that are in the old one and transfer them into the new one. Let's have a look at doing that now. We go into F, we can see we're inside of the new assembler. It has nothing inside. But if I hit the magic button, we can see all of the other devices and machinery that's attached to this network. There's the basic assembler, and that just has some silicon in it at the minute. So let's pull that into our new one. Let's pull these batteries and everything else across to it. So now the basic assembler is empty. We can grind it down and get some resources back. Now also removing this will save us a little bit of power in our base. And speaking of power, we're going to need to upgrade because running a refinery and a normal assembler is going to use more power than these can provide. So let's get some more turbines built. Now this is a tried and tested layout for turbines on a single tower. In a small space you can get quite a bit of power from having 5 of these turbines arranged in this way. Now when I try to place the turbine here, you can see it's in red. It's not going to work. Now there's a quick way, another quick way of telling the assembler that you want the components for a certain object without having to right click on it to say add to build planner, or without having to go into the actual build planner and drag them in place. Let me get rid of that. What we can do is, if we have the ghost image of what we want to build in our hands and we go up to the port on the assembler, we can do a mouse wheel click and it's saying there components added to the building planner. Now that's great. Now we want to put them to production. Let's do shift and mouse wheel, and there we go. Now we have 5 wind turbines, which should be more than enough power to run the refinery and the assembler. The excess power is being wasted, so really what we should do now is build a battery to store the excess power. There we go. But I've welded up the ground so it looks a little bit tidier and it's easier to see what's going on when I'm building things on top of it. So the next thing we need to build really is some storage. I'm going to go to cog and we want to make a small cargo container. So in building that cargo container, we've unlocked the ability to make some conveyors. Now the conveyors will help us pipe round materials around our base to different areas. Now what I'd like to do ultimately is have a landing area where we land a miner or any other ship onto a connector, and that connector can send materials through to either the refinery or the assembler or just cargo containers. But also that connector will allow us to charge up the vehicle that connects to it. So I'm going to set up some pipe work here and create a little landing area to land this mining vessel so we can get it charged, because we need to go and get some ice. So in the G menu, I'm going to go to CONV for conveyor, and there's our conveyor junction. Now it has a plus because it does more things than just being a junction. It also has the straight pipe and the angled pipes and various other things which we'll see in time. I'm going to use the mouse wheel to change between the different forms that it has. There's the junction and the straight pipe. Now I'm just going to place a straight pipe there. So our conveyor pipe work now is probably far enough out to give us some clearance around the turbines. So we could either put an L piece of tubing here, or we can just put one of those junction blocks there. I think we're going to use the block instead because I think it looks a bit better. There we are. So now on top of that we need a connector. And we're also going to need a connector on the bottom of this ship. So let's get the connectors on the hotbar. There we go. Now we've just unlocked those by making these conveyor junctions. And I'm just going to drop that on there. It doesn't matter which way round it goes. There we go. So now we've got a connector on the base. We need a connector on the bottom of our mining ship. Now to place it, I'm going to need to get it into the air and remove the landing gear. Engine on, unlock landing gear, and we'll just lift it up a little bit and jump out. So I'll put my grinder on to get rid of the landing gear. And then I'm going to change to the connector and find where it's going to go. Roughly there. Yep, that looks good. And then let's start welding it up quickly before the miner runs out of power. So I'm just using the external view to get lined up here. And C to come down. There we go. Now you can see they've gone yellow. Now that means that the magnets in both of these connectors are pulling the two connectors together. Now I can lock them off now, but I mentioned earlier that it's bad practice to use P. And here's another instance where we could use P to lock them together, but we shouldn't really. What we need to do now is go into the G menu, find our connector, and place that on the hotbar. I'm going to drop it into number 8. Now what I wanted to do when I click on 8 is to switch the lock. So if I look on the bottom there, number 8, now it says that it's ready to lock. If I come out of there and we tap 8, there we are. It's gone green. So it is locked safely. So now the miner is getting charged from the base. I've left the engines on. Let's turn those off with 1. And we can see that the miner is safely attached to the base. Let's check and see how long it's going to take to recharge those batteries now. If I go into the K menu for the control panel and scroll to the battery, where is it? The battery that's in white. Now the one that's in orange on mine, it's different colors for different systems. The one that's in orange is the base battery, that one there. But the white one is the one that we're using on the ship. Now what it's telling me is that it'll be fully recharged in 3 hours. So it's going to take a little while, but at least it's getting a charge now. Now we can speed up the charging process by changing the mode that the battery's in. The charge mode at the minute is auto, so it will charge when it needs to, but it'll also drain when it needs to. If I set it to recharge, it won't be allowed to drain, but it'll also draw power from anything else that the ship is connected to. Now this is another thing that's not really good practice, but it's useful if you need a very quick charge for something. But be warned, if you have lots of ships stuck on the side of your big ship and you have one of them turned to recharge, it may draw the power from the other ships, which may end up causing them to fall off. So we're on 2 hours that it's going to take at the minute. It's charging at 431 kilowatts. If I go to recharge, there, it'll be fully recharged in 13 minutes, but it's now charging at 4 megawatts, so it's way quicker. But again, bear in mind that this will be pulling the power from the other battery on the base. That's the one that's in orange here. So if I go to that now, it's saying that the base battery will be fully depleted in 54 minutes. Now before you try and use your ship, it's always worth checking, if you use the recharge mode, it's always worth checking that you've switched it off from recharge mode and back to auto. So let's let that charge for a while before we go and get some ice. We're desperate for ice. So I'm going to switch it from recharge back to auto, come out of there, And now I'm going to turn on my thrusters first, then use 8 to disconnect from the base. And now we can see we've got a hovering time of 27 minutes. And if I start flying, we've now got fluctuating between 8 and 15, 20 minutes. Now that should be more than enough time for us to go and get some of this ice. Now the connector here isn't plumbed into the drill, so whatever's inside of the drill can't be transferred to the connector and therefore transferred into the system. So what I need to do for the moment until we upgrade this is to take the ice directly from the drill manually. There we are. And I'm going to drop it into here. And now we have plenty of ice to be able to top up, our bottles anytime. Now next we should look at what we need to do to be able to get rid of the respawn pod. Things that we're using are the survival kit to top up our power and to top up our H2 and heal ourselves if we get injured, but there's also the H2O2 generator. So can we build those on the base? Well, we can build a proper medical bay, and we can also build an H2O2 generator. But in order to build a medical bay, we need to process some silver. And in order to process silver, we need a better refinery than this one here. We need the full-sized large refinery. So that's the next thing we're going to build. In the G menu, if I type in refinery, there it is. I'm going to drag that down into number 5. And let's have a look at the ports. You can see we have one connector on this side at the back, and on the other side the same. We also have one on the bottom, and there's a one on the top. Now I want to use that right hand one there to connect to the assembler. So let's place that down. And that's it. So we now have a large refinery, which is much quicker than this small basic one. So we could in fact get rid of that, get the resources back, save the space, save the power a little bit, and we'll just put one of these connectors between the two to keep our system all connected. So let's move the pots over there now. So I'm going into the large refinery. I want to see everything else. Now the small refinery is off the bottom of the screen. So what I'm going to do is on the left here, this is my inventory where the helmet is. If I click on there, I can see all of the other things in the system that I'm looking at. So there's the new large refinery. If I go down this side to the basic refinery, I can now pull over into this one all of the ores and even the ingots. So now the basic refinery is empty. Let's get the grinder out and get rid of it. Just to keep the system connected, I'm just going to drop one of those pipes in, one of the conveyors. So G and conv. Oops, conv, there we are. Right, now let's go and get some silver so we can start making a med bay. Into the refinery, and I can, drop that in there. Now I want to prioritize that because I'd like to get on building this med bay now, so I'm just going to pull that to the front and it'll swap whatever's in that place to the end. Okay, it's starting to get dark. Let's get the med bay underway. So G, M-E-D, there it is, medical room, the correct name for it. Now the sun is going down and it's going to make it hard for you to see what's going on, so I'm going to use a little cheat to change the time of day, but this is something that you might find useful as well. If you've left the automatic day-night cycle on, obviously it's going to get dark at some point, but for the sake of this video, it does benefit from being a little bit lighter. So the keys you need to press on the keyboard to bring up the administrator tools, that's Alt and F10. And in admin tools, there are all sorts of things we can play with. I'm not going to show you those at the moment, but what I will show you is the time of day offset. If I pull this slider, we can see we can change the different times of day, and I'm just going to set it to morning, where the sun has just come up over the hill, so we've got plenty of light and we can see what we're doing, and just hit escape to come out of that. And there we have our medical bay. So now we can recharge our power by accessing here and also heal ourselves if we've been injured. But we can't top up our O2 or H2 because we don't have an O2 or H2 generator. So that's what we're going to build now. Let's type in O2. There's an O2 H2 generator. Let's drop that in 5. Yeah, so I think I'm going to put it right on top of this cargo container. That way around. And then it means we only need to run a bit of piping from there, a bit of conveyor out, across and down to connect it up. So let's get this built. There we go. And now we want the conveyor. So there's the one coming out and forwards. We want another one just there. Let's get those welded. And there we go, and the lights are green. Let's take some of that out. Now, to do this, instead of dragging it over, I'm just holding Shift and clicking on it, and it's sending across 100 at a time. Now, incidentally, if you want to do 1,000, I've just done that manually, but if you want to do it quickly, if you do Shift and Control, that'll do 1,000 at a time. So let's do that. That's 4,000. That should keep us going for plenty of time. And I can just go into the cargo container and have a look for the O2 generator, drag the ice in, and now it's ready to start producing hydrogen whenever we need it. So I'm going to top up. Have a look on the bottom left hand side of the screen there. You can see the power's at 82 and the H2 is at 93. So if I hold F, there we go, topped up almost instantly. Now if I want to refill my bottle, I'm going to need to get into this machine, but I can go in via the cargo container. So in here, same as before, just going to punch in O2. There's my bottle at 52. If I drag that into there, there it goes, up to 100. And that's it. So now we have the large refinery. We've got a med bay for healing, oxygen, O2. We've got the improved assembler. And we've got the H2O2 generator and storage space. And we've got it plumbed up to a connector so we can land a ship on it, which will get a charge. So before you go, please remember, click like. It really helps me out by letting me know that you're enjoying the videos, so I know to do more. Subscribe if you want to see any other videos that I do. And next time we're going to upgrade our little miner. Tune in next time. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.